She is sitting on a wooden chair in a Gestapo basement on Lekarska in Warsaw, and her legs are broken in 3 places. The interrogator across the table from her keeps asking the same question. Where are the children? He has asked it for 30 hours. She has answered each time the same way. There are no lists. There are no names. She does not understand the question. She is 33 years old. She is a Polish Catholic social worker. And in a glass jar buried in a friend's garden, about a kilometer from where she is sitting, there are 2,500 index cards, each one carrying the real name and the false name and the new address of a Jewish child she has smuggled out of the Warsaw Ghetto over the past 2.5 years. Her name is Irena Sendler. She does not break. This is her story. She was born Irena Sendler in Otwock, a small town near Warsaw, in 1910. Her father was a doctor. He was the only physician in town who would treat poor Jewish patients during a typhus epidemic, and he died of typhus himself in 1917, when Irena was 7. Before he died, he sat her on the edge of his bed, and he said something she remembered for the rest of her life. He said, "If you see someone drowning, you have to jump in to save them, whether you can swim or not." The Jewish community of Otwock, who had loved him, offered to pay for her education after he was gone. Her mother refused the money, but the lesson stayed. The drowning and the jumping in. She studied Polish literature in Warsaw in the 1930s. She also went to the social work department of the city's Free Polish University, where she got a job in her 20s with the Department of Social Welfare and Public Health. She did field work in the poorest neighborhoods. She visited tenements, brought food, arranged hospital admissions for sick children. When the Germans invaded Poland in September of 1939, she was 29. By November, the German occupation authorities were drawing up plans for what they called the Jewish residential district of Warsaw. By the end of 1940, the wall was up. 350,000 people had been pushed inside it. A third of the city's population, packed into less than 3% of its area. Irena was on the outside. She used her job to get in. As a social worker assigned to the city sanitation office, she was issued a pass that allowed her to enter the ghetto to monitor the spread of typhus, a disease the Germans were afraid of, because it did not respect ghetto walls. She used the pass. From early 1941 onward, she went in 3 or 4 times a week. She brought food. She brought medicine. She brought clothes. She also, increasingly, brought a small group of trusted colleagues with her, and together they began something else. They began to take the children out. In 1942, the Germans began deporting the inhabitants of the ghetto to Treblinka, where they were murdered in industrial gas chambers. Irena and her network, about 30 people, mostly women, mostly Polish Catholic social workers, understood, before most of Warsaw did, that everyone inside the wall was being slated for death. The adults could not be saved. They knew the streets too well, the language too well, the prayers too well. They could not pretend to be Polish Catholics. But the children, the very young children, 3, 4, 5 years old, could. If you could get them out. If you could find them new names, new families, new papers. If you could keep them hidden in plain sight until the war ended. They got them out in laundry sacks. They got them out in toolboxes. They sedated infants and carried them in coffins, the small bodies hidden under cloths. They walked older children through the courthouse, which had 2 doors, one opening into the ghetto, one opening into the Polish side, and the children walked in one door and out the other. They sent children through the sewer pipes, accompanied by a young plumber's apprentice from the resistance. The small group splashing through the cold dark for half an hour at a time. They sent ambulances loaded with sick children directly out of the ghetto to non-Jewish hospitals in the suburbs, and from there to the next link in the chain. The chain ended in 3 places: a network of Catholic convents around Warsaw, the homes of Polish foster families willing to risk their own lives, and a children's home run by a remarkable Catholic nun named Sister Matilda Getter at Annan. The nuns asked no questions. They baptized the children, taught them prayers, taught them not to use their Hebrew names, sometimes had to teach the parents who eventually came to reclaim them after the war how to be Jewish again. Irena and her co-workers gave each child a small index card. On one side, the child's real name, real birthday, real parents' names. On the other, the new false identity. The cards were rolled tight and placed in glass milk jars. The jars were buried under an apple tree in the garden of one of Irena's colleagues, Jadwiga Piotrowska, at 9 Lekarska Street. The plan was simple. If we survive, we will dig them up after the war. We will find their parents if their parents survived. We will give the children back their real names. By the autumn of 1943, Irena's network had moved about 2,500 children out of the ghetto. The Germans had begun, by then, to suspect that something was happening on the Polish side. On the night of October 20, 1943, the Gestapo arrived at her apartment at 6 Ludwicki Street. They had been tipped off by a Pole who had been arrested for something else and had named names under torture. The Gestapo took Irena to the building at 25 Aleja Suka, a Catholic seminary the SS had converted into the central interrogation prison of occupied Warsaw. They were already aware that she was a high-ranking member of Zgoda, the Polish Underground's council to aid Jews. What they did not know was the list. They wanted the list. The interrogation lasted, on and off, for 3 months. They broke both her feet. They broke her legs at the knees. They beat her so badly that, for the rest of her life, she walked with a cane. She did not give them anything. Not a name. Not an address. Not the location of a single jar. In January of 1944, she was sentenced to death and walked to a courtyard at Otwock prison to be shot. A Gestapo officer met the column outside the door. He was, in fact, a member of the Polish resistance who had been bribed with an enormous sum by Zgoda. He pulled Irena's name off the list of prisoners and walked her out a side door, past a guard who was looking the other way, and into the back of a waiting car. Her name was added, the next day, to the list of those officially executed that morning. The Germans never realized they had let her go. She lived the rest of the occupation under a false name herself. She continued, from a series of safe houses, to run her network. She continued to add cards. The Warsaw Uprising came and went. The city was systematically destroyed by the Germans, building by building, in the autumn of 1944. The Lekarska Street garden was buried under rubble. But the apple tree survived. And after the war, when she finally went back with a spade, the jars were still there. The cards were still legible. She and Jadwiga Piotrowska began the matching in 1945 in a damaged Warsaw. Of the 2,500 children, only perhaps 400 had a parent who had survived. Most of the rest had to be told, when they were old enough to be told, that they had been born to people who were no longer alive, and that the names they had used since they were 3 were not the names their mothers and fathers had given them. Some of the children chose to keep the Polish names. Some went back to the original ones. A few emigrated to Israel under their original names. Some moved to America, married, had children, and never told anyone what had happened to them. Irena lived a long, mostly anonymous life. The communist Polish government, after the war, did not celebrate her. She had worked with the wrong kind of resistance, the non-communist resistance, and her story was not useful to them. For 30 years she was a senior social worker in Warsaw. She was a quiet, courteous, severely limping woman in a winter coat, who lived in a small apartment, raised 2 children of her own, and did not talk much about the years 1939 to 1945. In 1965 Yad Vashem named her righteous among the nations, and in Israel a tree was planted in her honor at the Avenue of the Righteous on Mount Herzl. She did not attend the ceremony. The communist authorities would not give her a passport. The world began to find her, slowly. In 1999, 4 American high school students in Uniontown, Kansas, were assigned a project for National History Day. Their teacher gave them a short clipping mentioning a Polish woman who had supposedly saved 2,500 children. They thought it was a misprint. They began researching. They wrote a short play. They called it Life in a Jar. They tracked Irena down in a nursing home in Warsaw, where she was 90 years old. They wrote her a letter. She wrote back. The play went on tour. It made her famous, finally, in the country in which she had nearly been forgotten. She died in Warsaw in May of 2008, at the age of 98, in the same modest apartment she had lived in for 60 years. The state funeral was attended by some of the children. They were elderly now. They held photographs of the parents they had never had a chance to know, and a copy, faded with age, of a single index card on which a woman in a sanitation office had once written down their real names, so that the world eventually could give them back. If this story moved you, subscribe to follow the Untold Front. New stories every week.